Welcome to this, a video in a series prepared by Our Lady of the Greenwood for the rite of Christian initiation of adults. The topic of this video is the Mass. Resources used in compiling this video include the Constitution on the Sacred Liturgy, Vatican II seminar put on by Father Matthias Newman, Your Guide for the Mass prepared by faithcatholic.org, and the Journey of Faith series that we hand out to all of the students. In short, when we talk about the Eucharist, we're talking about how it is applied in the liturgy of the Mass. And so there are some terms here that will be interchangeable. But regarding the Eucharist, which is the core of the liturgy of the Mass, the Eucharist is a memorial of Christ's sacrifice on the cross. The Eucharist is real presence of Jesus. And the Eucharist is believers' holy communion with the Lord. And all of that will become evident as we go through the details of the Mass. We remember the Last Supper. Jesus fulfilled Jewish scripture and tradition at the Last Supper. His words, "Do this in remembrance of me," has been taken literally by the Church since that time. It is a Holy Communion. In summary, when Catholics gather for Mass, they are there to do what Jesus commanded, and they believe that in that action Jesus is made truly present for them as my Lord and my God. Let's move on now and look at the history of the Mass. The Mass has a rich history. Beginning in 50 to 125 AD, Christianity's new movement begins in the Roman Empire. The Jewish background brings rich religious tradition at first. The Eucharistic, baptism, prayers, and instructions are first written down in the teaching of the 12. In the Greco-Roman Church, Christianity separates from Jewish beginnings. The Eucharistic rites of baptism, ordination, and reconciliation are introduced. In the Imperial Church, Christianity becomes the dominant religion of the empire. Heavy Romanization in buildings, customs, and social structure occur. The style of the Eucharist centers around the influence of bishops, priesthood, and confirmation. In the medieval church, the Roman Church becomes dominant religion. Germanic culture introduces new style of religiosity, visual rather than participative. Loss of community sense of worship, celebration especially in the Mass and Eucharist. In the Tridentine era, Pope Pius V issues revision of the Roman Missal. Latin was the language of the people at Mass. Very rigid and rubrical approach to the liturgy of the Mass and the Eucharist. In the Vatican era, there was an effort to restore early patristic era Christian practices from before 500 AD. The Mass liturgy now said in the local vernacular, and the laity participation in the Mass becomes extensive. Now let's look at the Mass and the Vatican II outcomes that have occurred from it. The Mass today is the essence of Catholic tradition. In liturgy of Mass, our redemption is accomplished. The Paschal mystery, that is the passion, death, resurrection, and ascension of Jesus, is the center of the liturgy. It shows the real presence of Jesus. Christ is present in consecrated bread and wine, as well via the communion in the priest and all the people. The Mass is infused with sacred scripture. Sacred Scripture is of greatest value in the celebration of the liturgy. It is proclaimed joyously by both priest and laity. The Mass is public, welcoming. Liturgical services are acts of public worship of the Church. Liturgy, as worship, contains much instruction for the faithful. It's all about community. Liturgy of the Mass encourages a sense of community at Sunday and Holy Day liturgies. The communal celebration of the Sunday Eucharist is a testimony of belonging and of being faithful to Christ and to His Church, according to the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Major Mass components include the introductory rites, the penitential act, the Kyrie, the Gloria, the Liturgy of the Word, homily and procession of faith, Liturgy of the Eucharist, and concluding rites and blessings, all of which we'll cover in greater detail in an additional class. So, there's more to come. Details of the Mass during the classes on the 7 sacraments, especially the Eucharist. More details will be provided about the actual Mass rubrics and rituals. And one more thing. The Mass is not a show, a worship service, a gathering, a fellowship, a prayer service. And it's not voluntary Sunday attendance. We Catholics are expected to humbly participate in this joyous celebration and communion. And finally, the liturgy of the Mass is the very core of Catholic Christian worship. That's it for this topic, the introduction to the Mass. Thank you for going with us on this journey in faith put on by Our Lady of the Greenwood for the Rite of Christian of Initiation of Adults process.